Hello everybody, and this is our last one together. This is lecture at 5.5. It's on social loafing and leadership, and this does tie directly to an assignment and a little help me plea at the end of it. So, by the way, this one was photographs that I took at the Nethercutt Museum in Southern California. Merle Norman Cosmetics made a fortune for the family, and they were car collectors, and they developed this museum. So if you have a chance and you're into cars, this is a museum you shouldn't probably miss in Southern California, up at the north end of the San Fernando Valley. Pretty close to where I grew up, actually. So social loafing and leadership. Let me ask you this. Do you like to work in teams? And that might be for your employment, but I'm thinking more specifically on school projects. Do you like to work on teams? And if I ask why, do you or why don't you, right? And often when I ask this question in class, the responses I hear then is, man, I end up doing all the work, right? I have to do all the work and everyone else gets all the credit, or the points are awarded equally, so I do all the work, but we all get the same points, and I don't think that's fair. And we know when someone is going down this path, they're really discussing equity theory. And that is that most of us want our inputs to equal our outcomes. We want an equitable situation. So if I put 70% of the work in on a team project, shouldn't I get 70% of the points? Or if I'm at work, shouldn't I get 70% of the wages or pay, right? And that's almost impossible to do. That's very difficult to apportion that in a way that everyone would believe is equitable. Can reward systems be developed to reward equitably? It's tough, because then we have to be able to measure each person's contribution individually. That's a difficult process, right? And this is something that teachers struggle with. So I think there's another approach. Let's get to this, and we'll talk to it here in a couple minutes. So social loafing is when others relax us, right? And Ringelmann determined that individual output declines on pooled tasks. And he went further to find that the more people that you have participate in a task, the more each of their individual output declines, right? So social loafing then is defined as a group-produced reduction in individual output on easy tasks when the contributions are pooled and can't readily be teased apart into individual contributions. So social loafing, when many produce less, basically what Ringelmann did is he brought people into the laboratory, and the random assignment was to group size. So some people were randomly assigned to participate alone. Some people were assigned to pairs, right? Some people were assigned to be in groups of 4 and then groups of 6. And he used 2 different tasks. For some people, he had them clap, so clap as loudly as you can, right? And then they would measure the sound pressure from the clapping. And the idea is that if you have one person clapping, then you have, like 1 degree of sound pressure. And if you have 4 people clapping, it would be reasonable to assume that you should have 4 degrees, whatever the measure is of sound pressure, right? But it never worked out that way. It always fell short, right? This is the sound pressure per person, and you can see that the more people there are, then the individual output diminishes. And he did this for clapping, and he also then did another set of experiments where he did cheering. And this is a great experimental technique, because some people would just say, if he just did clapping and then he presents his research, well, he would say, well, obviously that just applies to clapping, maybe nothing else. And so Ringelmann is able to say, actually, we did it with cheering and we observed the same thing. So always good to have kind of, when we use crime stories, we would demonstrate punishment preferences for this crime, but then we would also run a second study on another crime, a different crime, to demonstrate the same effect. Makes for a stronger argument. Remember, research is about persuasion first and foremost. So when is social loafing less likely to occur? And there's six here that I want you to consider for your assignment. If you form a group, let's say you're a team leader at work, a manager, supervisor, whatever, or you're kind of the head of the group project in class, how can you prevent people from slacking off? Well, here's some techniques that might be useful, right? When people believe that their own performance can be identified and thus evaluated by themselves or others, okay? So if I believe that my contribution can be picked out individual of everybody else, maybe I'm less likely to engage in social loafing. If people believe their efforts are necessary for the successful outcome. And as a leader, we often sell this idea, everyone's input is required, everyone's input is necessary, and everyone's input is equally valued, so that we make people believe that their input is critical. Right? What else? Well, the group expects to be punished for poor performance. I'm not a big fan of using punishment within a leadership paradigm, but some people are, and it can be effective in certain situations. Right? If the group is small, you're going to see less social loafing, and that makes sense. And often, if you have a big project with maybe a dozen people or so, splitting it into 3 subgroups and making each subgroup responsible for a portion of the project might be a decent strategy. Right? If the group is cohesive, so this is where team building comes in, as much as I really abhor team building because it's usually done so poorly in organizations. But the tighter you make the group, the more likely people are to contribute and not engage in social loafing. If the people believe that the task is actually meaningful and important, they're more likely to contribute and less likely to engage in social loafing. So that's about it. Now let's get to your assignment, right? And this has helped me because, in both personnel and organizational psychology, there's many team projects. Those courses, maybe 70% of your grade is derived from your team project, right? Believe it or not, I sometimes have people complain that one of their team members is not pulling their weight. What do you think I should do? And I'm asking you for your advice. That's part of this assignment, right? How can I decrease social loafing to benefit all these students? So I want you to imagine a scenario, right? For this assignment, please apply one of the potential remedies of those 6 I discussed, right, to the reduction of social loafing to this class project example. Pick any remedy, explain it briefly, and most importantly, be specific about how I might use it. So broaden my perspective, help me out here. I want to continue to use teams. I want students not to be complaining that someone is socially loafing. Not because I don't want to hear students complain, but because I become a more effective instructor and find ways to diminish the effects of social loafing on students who are participating. Which technique am I using now? Think about it, because I think this is really important for your guys' college experience. If you can help me become a better teacher and better manage group projects, it's going to benefit literally hundreds of students who follow in your path. So I'm really asking you to help me out here. Consider it carefully. Give me some sweet, simple, cogent advice, and help me build a more effective teaching toolkit. And I want to thank you in advance, right? You guys have been taking your assignments so seriously, and you've done such a good job in this course. I can't tell you how pleased I am in that regard. And this is kind of this is the end of the line. So our time together for this course is going to quickly, go away here. So help me out if you can, and then I'm going to help people out in the future using your suggestions. And that's it. So I want to thank you. Even though we're not together, I'm going to miss you guys when this is all over. So let's move forward, and I hope to see you in the future in some other classes. That's all I got, guys. Thanks.